Hello, everyone. Thanks for your participation. We have a session now which is called Cultural and Historical Perspectives on Iranian Music. And we're supposed to have two presentations today, like in this session. The first one will be conducted by Sepideh Khaksar. Her title is Echoes of Silence, the Role of Women in Iranian Music Post-1979 Revolution. Then we are also supposed to have a second speaker, Bijan Maysami, who will talk about exploring symbolism of seven in ancient Iranian music. Regarding the session, actually it's more a session that aims to attract you to the topic, and I can imagine most of you already are working on a similar topic that you're here. And Sepideh actually hopes to create a community around this topic. She actually studied music at the University of Tehran and then archaeology at the University of Tehran. Then, as you can imagine, a natural choice for her was to combining these two, combining the music and archaeology. And then she went to Berlin doing her PhD in Free University of Berlin. And although her own research has been in the last years more on more historical perspectives, this specific talk actually also tackles the contemporary music situation specifically related to women. So, Sepideh, the stage is yours. We listen to your voice.
Thank you so much. Good morning or good afternoon. For me, it's good morning, and for you, it's good afternoon. And I'm so happy that I have the chance to be here to present a part of our life history for you and for the other audience, which could also listen to this online. Women's activity in music is more comprehensive than just the last 2 or 3 centuries. Women have historically encountered diverse challenges across various domains, from literature to music and performance art. Still, when I started studying music at Tehran University in my 20s, I was led to explore the complex field of Iranian musicology. My initial observation in post-revolutionary Iran unveiled a nuanced and often contradictory landscape for music, shaped by the nation's extensive historical and social religious fabric. As a female musician, I was banned from singing solo and became a victim of a kind of patriarchy even in the field of performing, playing, and composing. Particularly notable was the marginalization of women within the musical domain, where their participation was primarily restricted to private performances under specific familial and social constraints. The phenomenon gave passion to my scholarly interest in examining the roles and contribution of women in Iranian music. This topic has remained largely unexamined and taboo since the 1979 Islamic Revolution in academic, anthropological, and even ethnomusicological contexts. But some scholars and colleagues have tried their best. Touqa Maleki, in her seminal work on women's music post-revolution, articulated the difficulties in categorizing women's contribution to music given the historical context. This research and presentation aim to shed light on this understudied area, providing a deeper understanding of the intricate interplay between gender, culture, and music in contemporary Iran. The classification of women in the music field has been significantly influenced by specific political and social conditions of different eras, a factor that could have been shaped more organically by the lives of artists, their births, career, and legacies, rather than by the prevailing condition imposed by rulers and ideological regimes. Understanding this complex interplay is crucial as we continue to study and appreciate the rich history of women's contribution to music. But for many generations, discussing and analyzing women's roles in music in Iran was fraught with difficulties. constrained by a lack of freedom and encouraged to engage in simple questioning. This is especially evident when considering the two distinct dimensions of music existence in Iran. Let's go to the others. The first domain explores music within different local and endemic culture across various ethnic groups such as Kurdish, Turkish, Baluch, etc. Here, music is significant in diverse cultural backgrounds where women play pivotal roles. For instance, women are revered as mothers singing lullabies and active participants in social activities like farming in rice fields, for example, in northern Iran. The second dimension focuses on women as court musicians, known as khoniyagaran in the history or motreban darbar, who played in kings and in their courts and other related royal family circles. Here, women contributed to the musical landscape in acceptable roles within courtly and aristocratic contexts, illustrating their multi-phased contribution to Iran's musical heritage. The presence of women in court music throughout Iranian history, as evidenced by textual and archaeological sources dating back to the Neo-Elamite era or even earlier. But it has been prominent in the Sassanid era. These historical records and findings enrich our understanding of women's roles in music across different epochs in Iran. However, this specific topic is not the focus of this talk or presentation, but it's helpful to refine a different narrative for the history of music in Iran. This panel discusses three vital historical periods in Iranian music, the Qajar to the Constitutional Revolution, First and Second Pahlavi eras, and post-Islamic Revolution to the present. These periods frame the exploration of women's role in classical Iranian music, shedding light on their contribution amidst evolving social-political landscape. During the Qajar dynasty, women participation in music was largely confined to the private sphere. The social, political, and cultural climate on the time did not support women's public presence in music, and female musicians were often regulated to performing in the privacy of their homes or the royal court. One of the roles of women musicians in the Qajar king's court was to organize mourning ceremonies, Rozekhani or even Taziyekhani. And another was to arrange specific celebratory gathering, a role assigned to them by the king. You can also see some other picture here from the royal experimental musicians who are just playing the music, and the other are the ethnic aspect of performing the music between the peoples and nomads. The constitutional revolution brought about significant political and social changes in Iran, including the advent of constitution and parliament. This period of the reform and modernization began to challenge the norms and women's role in various aspects of society, including music began to shift, although still limited. Women's public presence in music started to gain more acceptance, setting the stage for further development in the future time. Notable figures such as Ruhangi's here, as you can see, and Batul Abbasi emerged this time. The first Pahlavi era marked a significant period of modernization and westernization in Iran. Reza Shah implemented various reforms to transform Iranian society, including women's education, by imperial and forced cultural development. These reforms had a notable impact on the arts, including also music. During this period, women's participation in music began to increase, albeit gradually. The establishment of music schools and institutions provided women with more opportunity to receive formal musical education and training. Some women began to perform publicly and gain recognition to their talents. However, social attitudes towards women in music were still conservative, and many female musicians faced resistance and limitation. Despite social constraints, several female musicians contributed significantly to Persian music and left a lasting impact on the cultural landscape. Notable female here, as you can see also in the picture from all period, include Muluke Zahrawi, a celebrated singer known for her powerful voice and contribution to Persian classical music. She was one of the first female singers to record music during this era. Here you can also have a list of dominant singer, musician, and instrumentalists. There are dozens of people in this time who started to play, sing, and perform music. What we have here is just the second Pahlavi period. Under Muhammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, everything saw a more pronounced shift in the Iranian music sense. The Shah modernization effort included a greater emphasis on cultural development and the arts. Women gained more visibility and opportunities in music, contributing to traditional and modern genres. This period saw the emergence of prominent female musicians and singers who became cultural icons. Women like Qamar al-Muluk Waziri, the first woman to perform without a viol in a concert, and Delkash, a renowned singer, symbolized female musician, growing public presence and acceptance. The state-supported radio and television also provided platforms for women to showcase their talents to a broader audience. The social political climate here of the time remained complex, and women in music still navigate significant challenges and restrictions. During 60s in Iran, pop music emerged as significant cultural force, heavily influenced by Western style. Women musicians played a prominent role in this movement, gaining increased visibility and recognition. Female pop singer like Gugush on one side and Delkash on the other side blend different aspects of music. They all became iconic figures representing traditional melodies or contemporary pop sounds. With the speed of popular media such as radio and television, which provided the opportunity for a more significant number of Iranians to enjoy and participate in this newfound genre of music. However, despite their public success, these musicians faced significant challenges as well due to prevailing gender norms and social expectations. Their roles were often confined to singing, with limited opportunities to compose or play instruments. In 1979, Islamic Revolution brought about profound changes, particularly for women in the public sphere. The new regime impacted strict regulation and women participation in music, letting their artistic expression to private spaces. Public performance by women were heavily restricted, and many female musicians were forced to abandon their careers or continue their craft privately. Immediately following the revolution, the new Islamic Republic imposed a cultural revolution to align all aspects of society with religious principles. This includes a crackdown on music, primarily affecting women. Female singers also were again banned from performing solo in public, and their voice were not allowed to be broadcast on national media. Many music institutions were closed, and a significant number of musicians, both male and female, went into exile. Additionally, the 8-year war between Iran and Iraq further suppressed musical culture, reducing it to primary propaganda act and resulting in the almost complete absence of public Iranian musical performance. So, women and their musical activities were pushed underground during this period. They performed in private gatherings and small secret events, relying on words to reducing in primarily to propaganda acts and resulting in the almost complete absence of public Women musical activities were pushed underground during this period. They performed in private gatherings and small secret events, relying on word of mouth to share their music. The religious authorities gave fatwa on 1988, focused on legitimacy of the type of music that does not deter one from spirituality. After Ayatollah Khomeini, the first supreme leader of Iran, passed away in 1989, Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani became the president of Iran. Rafsanjani's presidency slightly relaxed the strict cultural restriction imposed during Khomeini's rule. Despite this, the ban on female solo performance in public remained firmly enforced. A rise in private concert characterized the 90s, and these venues allowed women to perform and showcase their musical abilities, albeit minimally and secretly. This period was marked by a struggle to maintain express musical tradition and talents within the bound of stringent societal rules. So this first revolution was to create musical festival for the revolution anniversary. These musical festivals commemorate the anniversary of revolution and were established to preserve the concept of musical concert within Iran's restricted environment. Still, these women's concerts were exclusively open to women audience, and they were not able to just perform it in front of the male. Apart from this, a few traditional female singers began to perform again, albeit with limited tools. Some other classical Iranian musicians who opposed the regime continued their work in exile. For example, prominent singers like Marzieh started to sing for those in exile with opposition groups. Parallel to these musical performances, some female pop singers and musicians began their activities in Los Angeles, but unfortunately, they have been labeled as Los Angelesi style musicians, a term used pejoratively even among musicians in Iran, especially in my generation. President Mohammad Khatami election in 1997 brought a period relative liberalization. Khatami's reformist government advocated for more social and cultural freedoms, including in the arts. This period saw a slight relaxation in the restriction on women musical activities. Female musicians experienced increased opportunities to participate in mixed gender ensemble and to have their voice heard in recordings. Those solo public performances were still prohibited. During this time, interest in traditional and contemporary Iranian music was resurgent. Over this time, the Fajr Festival attracted again Iranian classical music artists, including those based in Europe, thereby enriching cultural exchange and musical diversity. These festivals primarily feature traditional Iranian music and ethnic music from various regions of Iran. Prominent female musicians here also emerged, pushing the boundaries of what was socially and politically acceptable. Notable figures include Parisa, Simin Ghanem, Afsaneh Rasai, and also some other, like Farimah Qawam Sadri, continue to perform within the confines of the law, but push for greater visibility and recognition of women's contribution to music. Despite the progress made during this period, challenges remained and some of the gains were rolled back in the subsequent years under more conservative administration. Since the early 2000s, women participation in Iranian music has gradually grown, driven by global connectivity and a younger generation advocating for greater cultural freedoms. The advent of internet and social media has allowed female musicians to reach audience beyond Iran's border, showcasing their talents and gaining international recognition than here. These platforms have enabled women to circumvent some of the restrictions imposed by the Iranian government, leading to a more vibrant and diverse musical landscape. The Green Movement emerged in 2009 following the disputed presidential election, where many believe incumbent Mahmoud Ahmadinejad had won through electoral fraud, denying victory of the reformist candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi. The movement, characterized by widespread protest and demands for greater political freedom, profoundly impact Iranian society. Women played a crucial role in public demonstration there, and the movement also saw outpouring of artistic expression, including music, as a form of protest. Another example, as you know all better, is the Women Life Freedom movement, which gained momentum and has significantly impacted the Iranian music scene, advocating for gender equality, human rights, and personal freedoms. It has spotlighted the struggle of Iranian women, including musicians, on their social media platforms. Women's journey in Iranian music over the last century is a testament to their resilience, creativity, and indomitable spirit. From the constraints to Qajar era to relative freedom of Pahlavi period and though the profound challenges of the post-revolution era, women have continually found ways to express themselves, contribute to Iran's rich musical heritage. The recent social political movement, particularly the Women Life Freedom movement, have further highlighted their vital role and the ongoing struggle for the recognition and freedom. As we look to the future, we must continue supporting and advocating for Iranian women in music. Their voices are integral to Iran's culture, identity, and powerful symbols of resistance and hope. By acknowledging their past, supporting their present, and advocating their future, we can help ensure that this journey from obscurity to prominence continues unabated. And the last slide, if we have time, I would like to just play some. First, it's a sort of, so not the YouTube right now, please, only just let me just explain about this piece. It's a unique piece that has been recorded around 100 years ago. And as you can see in the slide, you can also see the Persian poem and also the two simple of at most 100 years. One has been recorded secretly by Neydavud and Muluk Zarabi, which I also talked about in around at least 98 years ago, if you want to be honest, not 100 years ago. It would be great if you just play this, only the sound sample, and then we go to the YouTube sample. Could you play the sound sample there? Oh, no. Yes, exactly. You heard the atmosphere and performance by Muluk Zarabi. I don't hear it right now. I don't know if you can hear it, or just let me know that she has started to sing or not. By the last year in the YouTube, if you just click on it,
Thank you so much for the inspiring presentation. Let's move to the second talk, and then we will come back to you, Sepideh, with the general questions. The second talk will be given by Bijan Maysami. Bijan is a musician and composer. Currently, he is based in Calgary, Canada. Since 2005, I asked him to send me his biography, and he sent me an amazing and wonderful history of his musical trainings from very childhood with his father, from the age of 6. He also comes himself from a family of musicians. Like his father also was the head of the art musical school at the university at Art University of Tehran, and he has continued, I think, from the age of 6, all of these trainings and a wonderful work on music. And now we are going to have his talk with the title "Exploring the Symbolism of 7 in Ancient Iranian Music."
Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. Thanks for having me, and really appreciate it. I just make a correction. My dad wasn't head of the music school. My uncle was head of the music school. I started with him. Yes, my dad. He was passed away when I was a small kid. No worries. Okay, I'm starting with the topic, which I called it 7. I've been working on that project for a few years. The idea came first to me from my great master, Master Majid Kiani. And he was talking about the 7 and the concept of the 7 and the relation between the concept of 7, the symbol of 7 in our deep culture and history, and the relation with our music. Because in Iranian music, as you all know, we have 7 scales. We have 7 main scales, and then there will be sub scales as well. But during the time, those scales, the sub scales mostly, are missed during the 1,000 years that we have that history. We had more scales right after Islam during the Farabi, but unfortunately, when the Mongols attacked to Iran again, there was another time that we missed part of our music scales that they're gone. The number of 7 holds deep spiritual and cultural significance in ancient Persia civilization. And we want to discover what's the relationship between the Iranian musical scales, the 7 main scales, and the concept and the philosophy. In all the religious and beliefs that has been in that area, in that region, like Mithraism, starting with Mithraism and Iranian Mithraism, not Roman Mithraism, Iranian Mithraism or Persian Mithraism, and then Zoroastrian, and then we see in the Christianity as well, and also in Islam and Sufism. Sufism, it's not just belong to Islam. It didn't born by Islam. It was born during the ancient time. We had that Sufism during the 1,000 years. We can see the sign of Sufism in Mithraism, in Zoroastrian, even in Christianity, and then later in Islam time. In Mithraism, as you all know, number 7 was very integral and spiritual practice, and the 7th stage was defined first in Mithraism. And then, the first time we see that 7 stages, and then how the human will be completed, it's on Mithraism. And then later, we'll see in our Zoroastrian as well, with 7 gods. And then later in Christianity, 7 is a very important symbol. And then later in Islam as well, and the Sufism. And we see all in the architecture, Iranian architecture, in some mosques or temples, that you see the symbol of 7. Now let's go to the Iranian music scales, the 7 main scales. These 7 main scales in ancient time Each of them were played in different time of the day, time of the year, time of the week, and day was divided in 7 sections, same as 7 days in a week. And we didn't have 12 months, kind of. It was kind of 7 seasons. And then later, the 12 months coming from the moon calendar and sun calendar. The first scale that we call it Shu, دستگاه شور, or Shur scale. The concept of let me start with the concept of from when the planet before Nowruz, before spring, starting warm up, and we can see, okay, the life is starting after the cold days, or before any sun comes up or the sky gets red, we see some lights after darkness. That's the concept of the Dastgah Shur, borning and reborning from death. And then later we come to the second scale, which is Dastgah Segah. And then that one was the timing in the day was right before sunrise, when you see, okay, yeah, there's red colors in the sky and the sky start clearing, or it's Nowruz. And the meaning of that is love. Also in, I just want to, before continuing on all the scales, I want to talk about the literal, Iranian literal as well. We see so many stories from 2,000 years ago from our main literal, like Ferdowsi, Maysami, Attar, and the stories about seven domes or Bears of Conference. Bears Conference is one of the most important stories that talks about the 7 stages also. And those stages or wadi exactly match with the meaning of the dastgahs or the scales. For example, Segah, a second scale, it means love or love body in Attar story that we can exactly match with this one. And then the third one, which is the Chahargah, that's the for later spring or when the sun comes up. And I mean, the life started, the new life started. In Persian culture, Chahargah is used, in different ceremonies when baby's born, or it's wedding, or it's a ceremony, or things like that. It's a sign, it's a music of life. And we have Nowruz, we have New Year, and later of a spring, and everything is green. And then once we go to the fourth one, which is coming close to the summertime, or mid of the day, or when the person is young. If you want to come to the human, and that scale called Mahu, and which is coming in middle of the day, noontime, and then later it goes to the Humayun, which is for afternoon, late summer, and then the sixth one is the Ras Panjga, which is for the late afternoon. Before sunset, around sunset time, or close to the, which is the fall, representative of the season. And then later we come to the Naba after sunset, towards to the midnight, and to after midnight, and also for later for the winter time, which represent death. And then back again from Naba to Shu, which is completely related. Those scales are completely related. And you can play them in their scales. You can play Shur in Naba, you can play Naba in Shur as well. There is no boundary for that. And that's a relation that goes, okay, from death again to alive. And then from Nowruz to Nowruz. And then we back again as a reborn. I just made it very short. If there's any questions, sorry, I didn't have a slide for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. I have some questions from both of you, actually. First of all, let's maybe reflect on what happened here, that you two came and gave this talk. What is your motivation from this from organizing this session? What do you expect from social scientists maybe here or other people in Iranian studies? What's the ambition here?
I mean, most of the musicologists or musicians here are just experiencing a sort of different kind of history that they think they could just study their musicological, history or ethnomusicological aspect of Iran with the help and support of a social scientist. For example, for me, in a sort of studying the women in the last century of music, I think the people who are engaged with the gender studies would also help me to make this puzzle better. We need the support of the interdisciplinary, of the topic to study and understand much more the problems and progressive reaction to this problem by changing the music or voice or performances. And as we are absolutely most of us in a sort of different place and areas, maybe we need a sort of archive to listen to all of these, to just have access to all of these data, and maybe the people in different kind of institution accessing to some samples of the Iranian music heritage could also support us with listening or analyzing these kind of samples and musical piece. And then we could just, for example, the Kolha project, one of our colleagues, Jane Levison, started about 20 years ago, just brought most of the piece of radio and television for the 40s and 30s. But after the revolution, there are so many musical pieces by the war, by the, different aspects of the movement in Iran. And these institutes, they have their access to it, or they have some article as well regarding these movements or historical phase, and they could also support us with giving us the access to just go, and listen and just publish. The publishing of these samples are much more important than anything else for me here. And to giving access to inside Iran and outside Iran to these different phases for using it in future, for composing or for performing in the Iranian musical heritage would be the most important and comprehensive perspective from my vision.
Thank you so much.
And Bijan, what is your opinion about it? Do you have any other wishes or options that could join to this meeting?
Exactly. Sepideh and I started talking about that archive, and also another thing was for me was very important to the relation between ancient Iranian or Persian history and culture and philosophy and our music. And during the time, we lost so many of our scales and so many of our records and history of our music, and we inherited really good bunch of material, but lots of them got lost during the time, especially for the other nations of Iran, like Kurdish people or Azerbaijanis, or in north of Iran or south of Iran, or Baluchi's music, which is very great and very deep. And the culture, it's very ancient culture. It's very deep one as well. That was my motivation. And another motivation for me was, to come up with mix of the Persian music, modern style of performance of Persian music, mixed with the live theater and dance, to explain and tell the stories to the audience based on, for example, Attar's stories or Ferdowsi's Half Khan or Seven Dawns or Bird of Conferences. These stories have come on a stage with great group of theater and live music at the same time. It's going to be amazing. Peter Brook did a while ago on Bird of Conference. Then there was another theater by another French director. I forgot his name. That was a great thing, but I mean, we need to do that, and this is the thing that we're missing in our art and music, and we really need to pay attention, take care of it, because I'm afraid in future with the new generation, if I mean our generation, my generation, second generation, we don't pay attention and we don't take care of this, it may get lost. We may lose all of them down the road. And this is our duty. And I feel responsible to transfer whatever knowledge I've got from all these great masters, Master Majid Kiani, Master Alizadeh, Master Lotfi, and transfer to the next generation. And by the archive that Sepideh mentioned, that's exactly what we need. We need to archive everything, the literal, everything has been written or everything has been recorded. Because again, I'm afraid even the music that we had during the Pahlavi monarch system or earlier stage of the Islamic Republic of Iran, they may get lost to next generation. They really don't pay attention, they don't listen. And the new music that's coming to the market, it's a scare me.
Absolutely.
It's a scare me to the death, and it's just destroying the culture. I mean,
what hinders creation of such kind of archive that you're calling for? Like there are thousands of Iranian musicians around. Also, many of them maybe are somehow technologists. What has hindered creation of something like that in a world that everything is online and collaborative and collective? And why such kind of community has not yet built, resulting to such kind of archive?
I think the AI specialists are also so important in this matter, because what we are facing for the future is a sort of different aspects of life. Apart from this archive, if, for example, we have different kind of platform to listen exactly to the, different musical instrument by the software for composing music, then most of the people in this, countries and everywhere, they could access to the pure sound of santur, for example, or pure and correct sound of tar. And what is also much more important is just for the composition of the future generation, we could make everything accessible for them. Because if they don't want to play tar and setar, if they don't want even to just sing like Muluk Zarabi, they could have some sort of software to use and to reproduce the sort of thought or just compose something in the platform of dastgah music, or even in different maqam of the Iranian, people, Iranian nomads. And this makes everything easier. As a personal experience that I was also working with some software and platform here, even Japanese musical instruments were, defined by the sounds samples, but we have nothing related, as far as I know, to the traditional musical instrument in Iran. Maybe if we just use or, have the opportunity to use your knowledge by the technology, we could just get through this, mission or life mission much more easier.